My name is Sean Lucas, and tonight I'd like to present to the town why code enforcement is much needed in your town, city, and county jurisdiction. And also, we'll be talking about the different role that code enforcement officers play to help make cities, towns, and counties safe. So let's take a look at the presentation and learn a little bit more about code enforcement and what it is and how it helps our community. Before code enforcement, we had things like this going on. And I want you to take a brief look at this video. $50-gallon water heater explosion. Make sure you pay attention to the house. Right here. Before code enforcement, we had accidents like this happening all the time. A lot of people were getting stuff installed. Houses were getting built. And as you can see in the picture, houses were getting built. There was not a minimum standard of code to pretty much enforce how a dwelling could be built. So this is what you pretty much saw. Buildings getting built, a big hurricane, tornado, or a nice windstorm or flood storm come through will pretty much knock the whole foundation, tear the house down. Before 1960s, there was no building codes in the state of North Carolina. So pretty much anybody before 1960 could come up and say they want to build a commercial building, residential building. As long as you had some type of documentation of what an engineer drawn for you, you could go for it and pretty much just build it. Before 1950, there were no zoning regulations within the state of North Carolina. So pretty much what zoning part was, zoning tells where everything can go in a community. Without no zoning regulation, you end up getting dwellings like this. Residential mixed right beside mixed commercial, beside mercantile, and between a business. So let's take a look at the different roles of inspectors and what they do. First of all, the building inspector. The building inspector enforces the North Carolina Residential and Commercial Code and the Manufacturers Code. Building inspector also is the only one authorized to condemn a property. So building inspector can walk into a property and say, by the order of me, I condemn this property. Building inspectors also sign off on the certificate of occupancy. That pretty much is the only way that you as a homeowner or as an owner of a commercial business can open up your business or move it to your home without their signature. Let's also take a look at some other inspectors. And don't forget, building inspectors, just as mechanical, plumbing, and electrical, we'll be discussing down the road, all have 3 levels that they can get in the state of North Carolina. A level 1 license, a level 2 license, and a level 3 license. And we'll talk about those licenses kind of at the end of the presentation. Plumbing inspector, he enforces the North Carolina State Plumbing Code. I myself am a level 1 plumbing inspector for the state. I can pretty much inspect all residential and up to 20,000 square foot of commercial. Pretty much plumbing inspectors inspect water heater change outs, any type of plumbing stuff being installed in the house or commercial buildings, and any other things, broilers, anything to do with water, how water flows in from a septic system, wastewater to the connection outside. The plumbing inspector inspects all of that. Mechanical inspector, pretty much what everybody knows as your HVAC inspector. A lot of people don't know that mechanical inspectors, not only they inspect HVAC and ductwork, but they inspect ductwork for dryer vents, ductworks for your vent fan in your bathroom and your stove exhaust fan. They also inspect insulation. They're the energy inspector. A lot of mechanical inspectors inspect energy inspections also because they don't have a title officer in the office that's called the energy inspector. So a lot of installation always falls on mechanical inspectors. That's pretty much checking your installation in your walls, your attics, and your floors as a commercial residential building is getting built. And don't forget, mechanical inspectors come in 3 levels. I myself am a level 1 mechanical inspector. Electrical inspector. Electrical inspector is different from the building, mechanical, and plumbing and energy inspector. These inspectors don't have a North Carolina code to go off of. They go off the National Electrical Code. National Electrical Code is a code that is enforced in every state within the United States of America that pretty much just gives everybody a layman's term of how electricity and electrical things should be installed. When coming up with this, instead of rewriting or adopting a code for North Carolina, the electrical board thought it would be smart if we just adopt the National Electrical Code, which everybody has adopted. So pretty much whether you go from Virginia to South Carolina, everything will follow the same state with the electrical code. These inspectors also inspect to make sure the wires are strapped. They check meter boxes, weatherhead stripping. They check your panel box on the outside. They check your wiring to the utility pole outside to the transformer. They check everything. They are pretty much one of the most thorough inspectors because they're dealing with the electricity coming into your home. They check your breaker to make sure there's no overloads. Fire inspector. And I got a fun fact about fire inspectors a lot of people don't know. Fire inspectors enforce the North Carolina Fire Prevention Code. These inspectors are housed in fire departments. They're not housed over here at the town hall building. They're pretty much in your fire department. Now, we do have a few fire inspectors that have a joint office. Some days they're at the fire department, some days over at town hall. They kind of go in between. Fire inspectors are pretty much either firefighters or first responders who got pretty much wanted to do something different, wanted to get out of being a first responder, wanted to become a fire inspector, to become a fire marshal. These inspectors pretty much check everything from daycares, nightclubs, commercial buildings, schools, not residential, not unless they're doing a neighborhood sweep. These inspectors do annual inspections. Also, these inspectors are categorized as the most scam inspector in the state of North Carolina. So if a fire inspector ever knocks on your door and they don't have a badge like this or one like this, that pretty much tells who they are, the jurisdiction they work for, do not let them in. They are one of the most heavily scammed inspectors in the United States of America, people being able to get in to pretty much infiltrate other people's homes. Code compliance, minimum housing inspector. Now we're getting to the residential inspector. These are the inspectors who pretty much all they do is work in neighborhoods. They work only residential, no commercial. Majority of the things they look at is not up-to-date building. It's more your older homes where tenants are living in rental units, called in for inspections from the inspector. They cite high grass. They cite junk vehicles. They're pretty much the inspector that enforces everything in the town ordinance. So your town has an ordinance for junk cars, junk motor vehicles, high grass, trash and debris, minimum housing standards, those properties that's been boarded up for 4 or 5 years. That's what these inspectors do. They're pretty much the eyes and ears of the neighborhood. They're the ones you see always riding through your neighborhood on the car, pulling over, stop, looking at this stuff, talking to people. That's what these inspectors do. These inspectors cannot condemn a property, but they can follow a case all the way through the town ordinance or the city ordinance and have a property torn down with recommendation of an ordinance by the town council and signed by the mayor and town clerk. Zoning inspectors. We're starting to see a big trend in zoning inspectors. Planners used to mainly fall under this, but with municipalities growing out, becoming more bigger, it's kind of hard for planners to be in the field and out of the field. So what is going on now is that the zoning inspector is pretty much doing all of this right here. Their job is to go in, issue permits, home occupations, sign permits, review them, go out and check signs, go out and check to make sure homes are meeting the required setbacks for that before they get built, go out and check to make sure commercial buildings are meeting the required setback. They also do the zoning final inspection to make sure everything's up to the landscaping of the town ordinance, everything. These inspectors are now starting to play a critical role, especially with so much development in new neighborhoods. They're also the inspectors who inspect site plans of all new subdivisions. So just think about where you live and you ride through a new subdivision. Those zoning inspectors were the one that reviewed everything to make sure it was brought by the town orders for curb and gutter, light poles, light fixtures in the neighborhood outside, make sure the landscaping was done right, make sure the shrubbery was put out right, make sure there's open space as far as a park and recreation. Those inspectors do all of that stuff right there in-house. Then they go out and check it at the end to make sure that the developer has done before we can sign off and say that the development has been completed. So as you can see, inspectors play a critical role in town, county, municipality jurisdictions. Their roles range from everything from checking for life safety violations, making sure buildings are being built correctly, make sure things are working properly within the residential commercial building, checking to make sure that every building is up to today's fire standards for things for fire safety, checking to make sure those neighborhoods are being built up to town ordinance and town standards. They play a critical role, and this is why code enforcement is so important in many areas. Well, this is my contact information, Sean Lucas, Town of Nashville. You can reach me at any time if you have any questions on code enforcement, and I'll be glad to help and assist you and help you learn more about code enforcement as we navigate through the system. Thank you.